Hello, innovators. I'm Todd and welcome to the Bridging the Gap podcast presented by Applied Software. You're invited to join our MEP and construction innovation adventure with a mission to propel this great industry forward. I have two guests today, Tom Deane and Noel Brady. They are the co-founders of ProjectMark, which aims to make marketing easy for the AEC industry. Tom is the CEO of ProjectMark and previously spent 10 years on the cost and risk management side of construction and has been part of multiple project teams across a range of sectors, touching over $5 billion in construction costs. And Noel is the COO of ProjectMark and previously spent 10 years as a construction manager in the industry, working with AECOM and AECOM Tishman on a range of projects across the Irish, UK, and US markets. Welcome to the show, Tom and Noel. Welcome. This is exciting.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Looking forward to unpacking all things construction and how that touches into the world of marketing.
Great stuff. Delighted to be on the show.
So I want to hear how you guys got into the construction industry. I know that you guys have a cool story of how you met and how your paths really crossed several times to get to work together.
Yeah. So Noel and myself know each other 14 years now, Noel, is it?
Yeah.
Met each other.
We've been saying that for a few years.
yeah, we've been saying that for quite a long time. But yeah, we met in college, studied construction economics and management, which is quantity surveying, if you're familiar with that term. Then went our separate ways after college. We always used to keep in touch, just talking construction shop and of course being good friends. Noel worked in the UK and Ireland. I went to LA to work in LA for about 6 years. And then lo and behold, we actually ended up on the same project together in San Francisco. We were working on a high-rise project down in Los Angeles. Noel was leading the Tishman team, senior project manager for a major development in San Francisco. We get an invitation to bid, and I was thinking, I know this job name from somewhere. Somebody's told me about this project, and our team had me wanted to pitch our team in the interview and move up to San Francisco. I call up Noel and I said, "Do you know the name of this project?" And he was like, "That's me, and I'm leading the interviews." So 14 years later, you have your college roommate interviewing you, and one of probably the biggest job for our company at that time. So we were all super nervous, and it's even more nerve-wracking presenting in front of somebody for so long. But it was we ended up working on that project together for a couple of years, and it was great to reconnect. And then lo and behold, we're now starting ProjectMark and doing better new things.
I'll tell you, Todd, it was a very interesting dynamic interviewing your college roommate.
Yeah.
I remember being in the meeting and just put my head down and asked everyone to start their introductions, was taking some notes, and then I hear Tom introduce himself and I was like, where'd that business voice come from? I've never heard Tom's business voice before.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you make sure to kind of put him through the ringer, ask him all the tough questions?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think
the hardest interview yet.
Yeah, I think I got the worst treatment, to be honest.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Oh yeah. As you should.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
At least I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So how did you guys get the idea then to join forces and start ProjectMark?
Yeah, we were always Tom was always just spouting ideas to me, suggesting ideas, and I was always saying no. But I was like, he's got a head in him for ideas. He's always thinking about stuff, and I was like, maybe I'll start thinking about it as well. And I just thought of one idea, and I was like, I love the idea of maps. I was like, I know how the DBI works. Every single job is tagged to a location. It's categorized based on the sector, the size, the approximate value. I was like, it'd be so much easier for contractors to find their jobs if they could just open a map, find the location in the city, the sector it's in, the type of construction, etc., and be able to find them in that way. And I just suggested it to Tom one day, and he came back and said, a couple of days later, he just went off, did his own due diligence, and came back and said, that's been done before. But what about this idea? And he kind of introduced the idea of ProjectMark, then a maps-based interface where companies are able to market their project experience and then be source based on it. So at that time, we both sat down and we said, let's start working on this idea together. And that's just over 2 years ago now.
Yeah, it was really interesting, Todd. We were looking at the landscape in general, and you think of contech and you automatically think build a work, right? The project management softwares, the estimating softwares, the the health and safety softwares, and also the planning, the work side of things, where you've got collaborative tools like Join and things like that. we seen the opportunity in the opportunity phase, the marketing phase, just based on our own experiences. It was on that project we were asked to qualify a whole list of vendors based on experience. And we're in the city of San Francisco. We're looking at a whole bunch of different high rises. Why don't we know that information instantly when all of these businesses have websites and things like that? So that was the initial concept. And as Noel and myself continued our due diligence based on our experience over the last 10 years in the RFP process, and that being a much more difficult task than it can be with regards to all the data that needs to be collected together. It's often the very last minute we end up submitting a proposal. We wanted that to streamline that based on centralizing content management. So and we're getting a great reaction early days.
That's awesome. I want to dive in more, but I want to circle back before. So no, you said that you guys launched this 2 years ago. That puts you right at the start of COVID times, right? What were you guys thinking? What was that like launching right at was it right before the pandemic or right after? Love to hear that.
It was a scary moment. Obviously, we just sat down. We did a lot of it part-time, conceptualizing, just drawing things out on a piece of paper. And at the time, it was just pre-pandemic. We said, let's give this a go. We kind of picked our hardest advocates, the guys who give us the most grilling on these things, and we went with them with the idea, and they were like, it's a good idea. And they were like, oh, we have to do it now.
Yeah.
It was just a coincidence that the pandemic came, and to be honest, the pandemic had a lot of benefits to us. Yeah. It was a mixed bag, because everyone was working remotely. You were able just to get so many Zooms in, Zoom after Zoom after Zoom, get feedback from people on the concept without initially having to take that huge leap of going to meet people for meetings and things like that face to face. So it definitely had a lot of pluses for us, and obviously a lot of negatives for a lot of people as well. But at the same time, people were looking for the next step in innovation. How can we differentiate ourselves, because you're anticipating a downturn as well. So it was interesting time for us to actually take that leap. But definitely, I would say on the overall, it probably assisted us, as strange as it seems.
I was just going to say, it's probably tough in the mental health with back-to-back Zooms for every day for 5 days a week. But
Zoom fatigue is real.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, it's so real.
But extremely efficient, as Noel mentioned.
Yeah, that's awesome. What were some maybe lessons learned of starting a new company, having to pitch the concept during the crazy, unpredictable time?
Lessons learned. Let's see. I mean, definitely. So there's so many lessons learned. I think what we did quite well, but definitely learned the lesson earlier on, was to speak to as many people as possible. We spoke to a few first of all, and the more people we spoke to opened more doors to speak to more people in different locations, different kind of backgrounds and things like that, all centered around either construction or fundraising and things like that. So definitely learned a lesson early doors to speak to as many people as possible, first to validate the concept, but also to validate the business model and things like that.
No, I'd agree. It's learning about your customer. We were lucky in the sense that we knew a lot of people in the industry. We knew then as our product started to evolve who was most tailored. The folks that we probably thought our product was for at the start wasn't for them at all, and it's really only now that product is ready for the more kind of bigger, sophisticated companies. So that was a learning curve in itself, just based on conversations, based on the back and forth with our early customers. They have guided us through the last 2 years of building on top of what we currently started with, or what we started with in the past. Yeah,
that's interesting. So as a marketing guy, I got to your website and my kind of ears perked up when I saw the tagline, the AEC marketing made easy. What do you think are some of the biggest marketing problems that the industry is facing right now?
Well, like how you present your business is becoming more and more important in the construction industry. It's becoming just as important as price. And what you're seeing now more often than not is that it's just as important as the bottom line. And it's about your suitability for the project as much as it is the price, and how you present how suitable your business is, your past experience, your approach to ESG, BIM, quality, safety, all of these various things. Clients are becoming more and more sophisticated with the questions they're asking. So how you respond to those and how you can present the suitability of your business is so important. Just for example, in the last project myself and Tom worked on, the decision or the award criteria was split 50-50 between quantitative, which is the cost, and qualitative, which is your business's suitability. So we learned really through that it's super important, uber important, how you can present yourself, how you can capture and maintain your client's engagement through various different mediums, whether it's your RFP, whether it's the interview, bid presentation, your website, etc. And that's really what it comes down to. The challenge is presenting your business in the most favorable way and engaging manner with all of the right content. And that just compounds the proposal pressure that companies are under. Now that you have to spend more time, more effort, more cost creating your proposals, presenting your business, is compounding that. And I guess the final challenge really in my mind that I would say is, from a marketing perspective in the industry, is visibility. In a world now really defined by tech, where there's so much more competition for visibility, it's how can you present your product? And an analogy we like to use is, if you look at any other industry, any other sector, there are marketplaces there for companies to market their product and then be sourced based on that product. In construction, we don't have it. And if you think about it, the product we sell in construction are the projects that we build. There's no marketplace there for you to advertise your product and then be sourced based on it. So visibility is becoming a huge thing, and it obviously goes deeper into digital marketing, content marketing, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. There's not that one kind of common source place where you can go and find, if you want to look at who's built all the latest cool stadiums or something, and get really specific, you have to kind of go do your own research on each individual one and not have that centralized place.
Exactly. And it leads to more opportunities. It informs the client, it informs the contractors about who's the most suitable people, who've done it most recently. And if you think about it, these are all the questions that everybody asks, either in an interview, in a pre-qualification process. The common denominator you're asked in every scenario is, tell me why you're qualified to do the job. And it's all about presenting your past experience, your team, your company, etc.
Yeah.
Why isn't there a marketplace for you to do that? If you want to get an Uber, get a hotel, get anything in any other industry, there's a marketplace there for you to find it based on what they've done in the past, an ability to refine your search, etc. There needs to be something like that in construction.
Yeah, I want to pick up on that, presenting yourself kind of in the best possible way. What are some ways that the people should kind of think through that? And then maybe what are some low-hanging fruits that they want to kind of take the first step in doing the next right thing? What should they do?
I think it's quality. It's a quality output where extreme. I think it was 95% of people know in a Harvard study, decisions were made subconsciously. Imagine you getting two estimates with the same price. One was done, looked like on the back of a piece of paper, and one was highly qualitative. It looked great. What number do you believe the most? It's very similar to the construction process. The more you can present yourself in a better manner, the better chance, you instill confidence in that owner's decision about your business. Just touching back on what Noel had mentioned about some of the challenges, the infrastructure, lack of infrastructure for a big portion of the mid-market. Oftentimes we've met customers that they've one marketer that is just under so much pressure in terms of proposals, spontaneous requests, managing the website. So we've built tools around for that business that allows them to completely streamline that process, but also allow their doer sellers or the BD folks in the business to come in and develop content really, really easily. But yeah, going back to your first question, it's all about, the quality that you can present, whether that's online or in the interview process, or through, means of collateral that you send across.
Yeah, like as Tom mentioned, the low-hanging fruit is quality. There's no excuse for poor quality in this day and age when there's so many resources available to all types of companies. After that, it's how much further can you go in terms of engagement? How can you capture their engagement and maintain it? Whether that's through interactive widgets, an interactive map, video content, things that let your client know that, yes, I've listened to your questions and I'm answering your questions specifically for you. That's how you get to the next step of being in the upper echelon of contractors, no matter what laneway you're in, your reputation or however you fit. It's all about letting your client know that you've listened to them.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that's the that's the name of the game in marketing, is being able to match your story with the needs of the client and everything. One of the things that I really liked about ProjectMark when I got to see the platform was the templates that you guys have in place to make it easier for somebody that, Tom, you had mentioned that if you have a one-man band marketing person, there's so much that has to go through that one person, that those templates really help streamline it, and then gives the freedom and flexibility for others to come in and, you know, type in whatever content that they need to make it more specific, but they have those branding guardrails on so that every single thing that goes out looks like it's the top quality that it can be.
Exactly. We've looked at our customers from the smaller folks to the more sophisticated, and we're looking at products across all scales. We know, you know, companies that don't have the time for, you know, individual designs and things like that. We provide the designs for them that they can, you know, generate really slick outputs. But we know for architects, and we know for more sophisticated companies, or should I say larger companies, they're not going to want to compare themselves in any way to their competitor with that same template. So we knew there was an ability or a means of flexibility that we had to create, and something that we just released. And I think you've seen the demo version of before we just released it is essentially a Canva for construction. It's the only kind of construction focused editor underpinned by content that you store on ProjectMark. So we're super excited about, and it goes back to our mentioning about us being now ready for some of the bigger firms where we thought we were ready, you know, a year ago. So we're excited about how we can help companies really across the board.
Yeah, that's awesome. So one of the other big aspects of this is creating those connections across the industry. How do you guys go about really establishing those better connections through AEC?
Well, the one thing when myself and Tom sat down to, I guess, take stock of what we knew about the industry and what we wanted to build for the industry, the common denominator across all of this is the projects that we work on. And I feel it's the one single thing that connects us are the buildings that we build or the projects that we build. And it's something that everybody is always proud about. I built this, I built that, putting your name on the map, putting your buildings on the map. And that's kind of where we started off. Let's allow people to leave their mark on the industry in a literal sense as well. And when you think about it, everybody loves to market what they do. In your resume, you've got the projects that you work on, the experience that you have. When you build a project, you've got fencing around the side. People are advertising, I worked here, I worked there. And that's what we try to keep to the core of what we're trying to build. And it's projects that we work on. It's the one thing that connects everybody in the industry.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So it's really coming at it from the people side of the equation, right? Doesn't all the information kind of stay with that person? So even if they go to a different company, their projects are still linked to them. So that visibility is there.
Exactly. And that's a huge part of, you know, winning new business with a new employee, right? It's, you know, if I was to move to a different business, of course, they're going to want to optimize my past experience to win that next project. So like Noel said, the common denominator across every individual, every company, no matter what the location or no matter what the size of the company is, you know, what projects have you worked on?
For us, it's about pulling it all together. We kind of really see three pillars. It's your company, the project experience of that company, and the people and their experience. And that's what the client is interested about. And it's how you connect all of those three together, either in your proposals, in your interviews, on your website, to tell the next client and the one after that these group of people or this combination of different people have the right skills and the right experience to build your similar relevant project.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So here's a kind of a technical question on how it all works between ProjectMark and then somebody's actual website. How does that relationship does it? Is it an iframe that comes in, or is there a direct link? Do they send people over to ProjectMark, or?
No, it's simply an iframe. What we want to do, or part of our goal, is just to streamline your processes, make sure that it's easier. You know, a lot of small construction companies do not have the resources to keep their websites up to date. So part of what we want to do is just make it easier for you. And so what we do is, instead of paying an external person, or in a lot of cases, never ever updating your website, what we have is a simple plugin through an iframe that we're already managing your portfolio in ProjectMark. You copy that code, paste it into your own website. And from that point on, anytime you want to update your own website, add a project there, which in our opinion, the most important thing you can have on your website is your project portfolio. So what our iframe allows you to do is, in 60 seconds or less, you can go into ProjectMark, add a project to ProjectMark, and it will simultaneously add to your website. But the added benefit of that is you now have a project in your database in ProjectMark that you can advertise on the external network, be sourced based on that experience, and then you can use that project in your proposal builder that we have on the platform too. If a client asks you, what's your relevant experience? Show me a list of commercial projects you've completed in the last 5 years. You're able to apply some filters, find that data, and automatically import it into a proposal. So that's, again, our overall goal is connecting people based on those projects, but just streamlining the processes, providing that simple infrastructure that you may not otherwise have.
Yeah, I love that. You get that 2-for-1 benefit. I tease with website designs that it's one of my least favorite aspects of marketing, because as soon as you get the website updated, it's out of date.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of restart the whole process again. So
for sure, even
something
for
that makes that easier,
yeah.
I'm all for.
Yeah. It's essentially, to really simplify, it's essentially a checklist of what you can do with your project and team experience. You know, how many things can you do, and how many things can we build to be able for you to optimize having it in one location. And you know, we've a lot of really cool stuff in the pipeline just to make it easier, and most importantly, more engaging. You know, we see ProjectMark being in the interview situation. How can we have things in the interview like DocSend as a part of our pitch deck? You know, can ProjectMark be a part of companies' pitches? And yeah, super excited about what we have planned.
Yeah, nice. One of the things that I think is really cool about what you guys are doing is allowing smaller contractors and teams to really kind of go more toe to toe with bigger companies. Yeah. How do you think that technology really allows then the smaller teams and contractors to punch above their weight and compete more effectively with those big contractors?
Yeah, I guess it's just for the folks that can't afford the resources or the salaries to be able to do so. There's so much tech out there, and it's really exciting to see the different products that can be utilized. And there's a big part of, you know, yourself, Todd, that is educating the market on different solutions for the small and mid-tier market. But certainly today is, you know, 2021 provides an opportunity for a lot of companies to optimize technology at a much more affordable rate to compete and to level up with the bigger companies. And it's becoming ever more important as well, with, you know, DEI provisions and having to procure small businesses and local business entities. You know, we want small and local businesses to get the job because they're more than qualified, not just because they have the certification. And that's how smaller businesses should look at themselves as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think when it comes to actually delivering work, the level of quality between the labor force is definitely right there. It's just the bigger companies have a bit of a step up in being able to win that work. But as Tom mentioned, with all these ESG initiatives right now, which are not just in public works anymore, they're becoming more and more prevalent in private works. These companies are essentially just as qualified in a lot of senses, but they just don't have that infrastructure to present themselves in the right manner to be able to be sourced in that way.
Yeah. How has the marketing in construction, how has that really changed over the last 2 years?
It's definitely, there's a lot more emphasis on digital with everything else in every other industry. Since the pandemic came, everyone is looking for different opportunities in how they can, first of all, increase their visibility, anticipate what's coming or what may be coming in terms of a downturn, and try and get ahead of that. But then also just making sure, because a lot of people have left construction, and you'll see a lot of articles and things about that, about being unable to get the workforce back into construction.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a huge initiative and there's a huge emphasis on adopting technology to make up for that gap if it maintains a gap. And I think you're going to see a lot more of it. It's a very exciting time in construction technology, and a lot of the bigger companies are starting to take more notice of it, and it's not going away. We've always been innovating in construction, but it's not always been from a digital technology perspective. There's so many things out there that myself and Tom have been keeping an eye on, especially being in construction. We're super excited about some of them, especially from the risk and cost management perspective. Obviously, the project management things have probably been the first things that will be coming to the table, but there are things now like supply chain management and materials sourcing, which are just, from my perspective, super exciting out there.
Yeah, it's definitely a great time in the contech landscape. And like Noel said, the willingness to adopt, or the willingness to entertain, contech solutions is only ever increasing. So, a great time even for our solution to be up and running.
Yeah, I agree. This next decade, I think, is an exciting time for contech. The explosion that has happened over the last few years, and the accelerant that was 2020.
Yeah.
I think it puts it all in a really good spot for everything to kind of converge together. What do you think the industry's going to look like then in 5-10 years down the road?
Want to take that, Nolan?
Well, the first thing that came into my head, and this may or may not be a thing, but if you think about how blockchain works and the ability to have these open ledgers to see where the transactions are being made, not just from a monetary perspective, but from the transactions in terms of sourcing materials, sourcing people, and everything is on an open ledger. I mean, I have a very limited knowledge about blockchain. My buddy's doing a master's. He did his dissertation on it, and he was explaining all of this to me, and I was like, wow, if that actually happens, it's huge. But there might be some resistance to that in construction industry, because
probably
in a lot of senses we don't like that level of transparency.
Yeah.
But something like that, I mean, the opportunities out there with things like that are incredible. And that just in terms of automating all of these processes, not just from a process manner, but from an actual physical on-site manner, with robots doing drywall, doing everything, even demolition. It's crazy. It could be a completely different world.
Yeah, I think the most things that I'm excited about are the products that I know nothing about, just because I'm fascinated by them. Noel had mentioned the drywall robot. We were invited down to Canvas Construction a couple of years back, going through their shop, and it was just incredible to see what impact they could have in the next 10 years and on the prefabrication space, industrialized construction. There's just a lot of things going on. What's that company name? Is it Icon that produced the 3D houses? I believe it's Icon 3D. Again, I read an article about them about 2 weeks ago. It's just fascinating stuff.
Yeah, 3D printing, it's crazy as well. And it's getting essentially bigger and bigger in a sense, what you're able to create with that.
Yeah. I feel like there's so many different areas that are now in the realm of possibility. It's going to be interesting to see which one kind of latches on and
for sure
takes root.
Yeah.
If you could kind of snap your fingers and innovate one thing in the industry, what would it be?
Not being biased for ourselves, I would say pre-con. That's the closest to where I'm from. I think there's a lot of great products out there, like the Joins of the world, that are doing some really great stuff on the pre-construction cost management space. And I've lived through the process of spending a year, 2 years in designing and and the whole cost management phase, and the project still ends up 30% over budget. Surely there's a time and a place that doesn't happen anymore. So for me, I think I would love to see just more streamlined processes in place, and often in the UK and Ireland there is streamlined processes in place already, just based on the setup there. But over here, there's some great products out there that I think are going to really help the management of the pre-construction planning side of things, and I would love to see that. It would save a lot of headache, that's for sure.
You touch on something there, like there's so much historical data out there, and it's just about being able to collate that and aggregate it in, and that's not just cost data, it's schedule data, construction data. Just if we can pull all of that together, there's so many lessons learned. You can see a project, profile it, and be able to make a more, I guess, established estimate on where this will eventually end up. And there's so much of that out there, and it's not just based on a project, but based on where its location is, so many other factors. I think there's huge opportunities to pull all of that together and just bring it into a centralized manner to be able to make those estimates.
Yeah, nice. Well, how do people find out more information and connect with you all?
Yeah, just head to projectmark.com. There's a request a demo button in the top right hand corner, or bottom right hand corner. Just shoot us a message, and yeah, I think there's both. Shoot us a message, and would love to chat.
Sounds good. Well, last question for you both. What does innovation mean to you?
Change. Yeah, change.
Exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It's always evolving.
Yeah.
Always just looking for the next thing, just making improvements.
I like it. Well, guys, thanks so much for coming on the show and talking.
Great
Enjoy
stuff,
the conversation.
Todd. Awesome.
Cheers, Todd.
Thanks
Great
for
to
having
talk.
us.